He's out of town today, and we're glad to have him, if not in body form, spiritually, or through the phone, shall we say. All right, first order of business. First of all, I'd like to welcome guests and members today, and it's a warm but beautiful day, and glad for that. First order of business, adjustments to the agenda briefing items. Do I have any adjustments requested from any of the council members? All right, not hearing anything, I'll make or ask for a motion for agenda adoption.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have first and second. Any comments? All right, take a vote. All those in favor, aye?
All right, we have to roll call, right?
Aye. No, he's not a voting member,
Okay. Aye.
unless you have a tie. You have aye too.
Aye.
Oh, it's unanimous. All right, agenda's adopted. All righty, next item is general business. At this time, the mayor will provide an opportunity for elected officials to make reports, comments, and/or ask questions. So I will start with Lenny. Mine will just start with you.
No, I don't mind at all.
All right.
I'm glad to be back in person. I don't think I was in person last time, so glad to see you all again. Feel like I haven't seen you forever, but I think I did see you Thursday night. But I just had one comment, and the comment was, I was reading the reports from our town manager, and I was exhausted just reading your reports. And thank you to everyone who turns in those reports. Our town, we're doing a lot of work. And I say we as in the staff is doing a lot of work, and just, I know we say it a lot, and it's not cliche. Thank you all for everything that you all do for the town. And we don't want to run you in the ground. That's a lot of hours, you know. And, you know, whatever we can do to help alleviate some of that, you know, maybe that's something we can work on, because that's a lot of hours that you put in. And we don't want you to be mentally exhausted or physically exhausted. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Gary?
Yeah, likewise, thank you both, thank you all. Thank you from town manager, or Mr. Manager, for putting those together. Thank you for the department directors for putting those, for doing the work. And your work is definitely appreciated, I know, by all of us here on the council. So I would like to thank you for that. Also, just, I guess, lighter note, good to see the good weather. Good to see some events taking place out in the town. All different varieties are going on. It's good to see people out and about, engaging with the community, and I look forward to a full summer of activities. So that's all.
Thank you. George?
I'll just add that the weekly reports, I like the way we've kind of structured them now to get rid of, just give us pertinent information that helps us. You know, I like Josh, I was telling him how well I liked it. The code enforcement guy, you know, we got a week, you know, a monthly thing that says they're doing a lot of the things we wondered about. And then Lance was really good on get us updated on what's going, what's here, what's coming, you know, like that. But that's the way to do it. Of course, Doug, with yours, one concern, you want to drop the radio show. Can't do that. It does get a lot of people informed. You know, a lot of people do listen to it, but and then when I've been, I've really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna be the vote that way. But the other thing that concerned me was, oh, and congratulations to Justin on his new addition to his house.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's a joyous time there. And then I wanted the county. We sat through the meeting down there with the county to get the money for the sewer going down the out of south Idaho Fairgrounds, and are they considered dropping that on us?
I can't say anything officially, as they have not given us any official word, but to answer your question, I have heard that was the recommendation from the county manager to the commissioners, was that they drop funding and not fund us anything. That is correct. And speaking with a couple council commissioner members at you all's direction, Mayor Pro Tem, also, I think there's several that are still fighting to try to get us some funding, but whether they do that or not at this point is up to them. I think it's going to be discussed again, but especially the projects that we identified and were asked to come back with different projects and identify. The
But it seems-
conversation I had was that was not recommended.
The night we met with them down at Statesville, I mean, it felt, they were pretty confident that with Mallory Lane and the others, that this is gonna come through to put that sewer line, coming through the fairgrounds and the rec center and bury them down and tie in Duck Creek.
And speaking to the mayor pro tem, I think the words we heard at that meeting was, it was gonna be significant assistance and it was well warranted and well deserved, as not only would it benefit Troutman, it would benefit Iredell County and Statesville also. Their funding model or perception of what they can do with their funding has changed. But we have not received any official word that where we stand, but from the numbers we were talking at that meeting, it's gonna be a whole lot less, if any.
We need to, anytime we need one of us, I'd be glad to go back and step our deep for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Just a couple of congratulations to Justin and his wife on the birth of their daughter.
Thank you.
And also our condolences to Adam on the passing of his grandfather. But on some other notes, and just not really so much questions, but just kind of maybe if we can get some guidance or some answers where to go here. Our early voting was at our library, and I'm glad to see the turnout for the early voting was great. But I don't know if anyone else voted early, but it was a real eyesore up there by the library with the amount of signs. And it was out of control in my opinion, and terrible looking, okay, with those amount of signs. And I don't know if we can do anything about it for November or the next time we have an election, but is it possible that we can limit it to one sign per candidate? Because I'm sure other people agree with me, other citizens, that was out of control with how the signs were.
To answer your question, just this morning in our department directors meeting, I asked the planning director to look at a couple other towns that we knew had sign ordinances, and what was the terminology you called them, Lynn?
Off-site signs, which is signs that,
Which is people who own their own property, private or business, can of course put certain yard signs up, and we do have a sign ordinance in our UDO, but these yard signs, other than our greenway and certain other areas, seem to evade. Two things to your question. One, the Board of Elections decided how many signs could or should be put up at these early voting places. We had a lot of calls into the town hall of people trying to vote early, but it was no longer at Troutman Baptist Church like it used to be. So even that communications through press and media was not up to par. Not saying the Board of Elections did anything wrong, just the change, when it occurs, people don't learn as quick. Our sign not working as we had ordered, that was supposed to take 60 days back in November, that also contributed to part of that, because as the Mayor Pro Tem has joked but been serious about, as has Emily Watson, if it's not on that sign, it don't happen in our town, is kind of the thing. So that helped with it. To answer your question specifically about the signs, we certainly can make a recommendation as to what we would like to see. Once Lynn has researched what these ordinances are in other towns, some of them make an exception to political signs, but that's still something that we certainly can look at and then make everybody aware this is our rules going forward. Again, on private property or business-owned property, the rules are a little bit different there than somebody coming out and posting a sign somewhere else.
Right, and I'm not questioning a private person having 200 signs on their property.
Sure.
One question is, that's our library there, and that's our property.
Yes, sir.
And there was an abundance of candidate signs on our property and on the library.
Yes, sir. Typically, what was supposed to have occurred was 2 per candidate. I don't know that anybody went and counted, because there were several that had more than the 2.
Okay, so just for the future, I'd like to see us be progressive, and let's do something about it so it doesn't look like that for the future,
Yes, sir.
okay? And then speaking about the sign, can I ask if we paid that bill in full?
I don't think we have paid yes, we did. Actually, I can answer that, yes. When it was ordered, we had to pay a significant deposit up front. The last part was paid when the sign was up and working, but then a few days later it quit working.
What type of warranty or do we have here? Because evidently they're not fulfilling it properly.
Well, he's been here counting today, I wanna say 4 times in the last week, Josh, does that sound right? So he has been coming back to work on and or repair, and it's like he will get the sign fixed and then he leaves and then it quits working again. But he was here again today for a few hours, working on the same sign. And we do have a warranty. I can't tell you off the top of my head that it's what specifically it is, but we do have a warranty. He has been coming back to service it. Emily has been on top of that. Every chance we get that we see an issue. I do know we have some connectivity issues, that we were under the impression we would be able to program everything here from Town Hall. That there's something happening there, and I can't give you specifics, but I'll be happy to follow it up with an email.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just got a couple more things. One, thank you, Lynn, for getting that code enforcement report out to us. But just a couple questions regarding that report. I see some people with code enforcement problems are resistant, according to the report. I know what resistant is, but what's our policy to resistant people with the code enforcement problems? Are we telling them, hey, you have to get done, otherwise we're gonna do this, this, and this, or are we just kinda letting it fester?
No, we take proactive steps. It depends on what the actual violation is as to what our remedy is on it. Some of them have been in there before and they start getting issued fines. Others, which will come back before you all next month, I know there's at least one tear down and demolish. There could be as many as 3 by the time that reaches our agenda. So to answer your question specifically, it depends on what the specific violation is as to whether they get a follow-up letter that we're going to have to go through the town attorney to do, or we start issuing fines and penalties.
Gotcha.
But there is, whether they're completely, the compliant ones typically, you all just know this happened and then they complied.
Right.
Like a lot of failure to mow notices. They get those and they're in compliance. Others, it's like they push it up to the 11th hour, so to speak, at the time of a fine, and then all of a sudden they come in compliance. But
When I see the word resistant to me is no, they're not gonna do it.
some certainly try that. There's one house that has been complained on that they've went to do an inspection, for example, and the property owner says, no, I know my rights, you can't come in here. So as the workload allows, John's gonna have to have a court order to go in there because he is allowed by statute to go and do the inspection.
Gotcha. There was another one that I wanted to question, maybe we could get an answer out of that, and that was the code enforcement HC 21-01 at 591 North Main Street, which is the car wash, and I see the result is hold.
He
I
has
was wondering what hold kind of means.
He has talked to me about the case, and I asked him to take hold until I talk with the property owner to try to get the receptacles moved to where the property owner's not the issue. It's all the trespassers. At numerous times over the years, there has been barrels set up with tape, do not cross. Those get took down and removed, and people's going and depositing litter on his property, and it's not him that's doing it. So to me, in fairness to the property owner, it's let's look for a solution to this instead of finding him for somebody else's litter that's on his property when he's took the steps previously to try to keep them off.
Okay, thank you for that. And also, it wasn't on that code enforcement report, but I've questioned this back, I would say back in January or February, is the dumpster by Mary Lentz that's out in general view that I was told was gonna be addressed and there's no structure around it, and it's just an eyesore in the middle of the parking lot.
John and I did speak about it. You are correct. I saw when I submitted the reports to you all that it was not there. I can't give you a status unless Lynn has one, but he is certainly aware. We went and took pictures, he and I together, not only just of the cans you're speaking of, but also the sign that's in non-compliance as well.
Okay? And something that I spoke with you about that I can let everyone else know, in case we didn't, the cameras on a corner of cameras or counting devices, not sure what they are.
I did not tell everyone other than Councilman Oxer. The rest of the board I do not believe is familiar.
I'll just fill everybody in. On Autumn Frost Avenue in Winter Flake and Barrium, Caesars Village. It was a company named Quality Counts, and they were counting the amount of cars. Why they were doing it on Autumn Frost and Winter Flake, I could never really get an answer out of them, but it was for Kimberly Horn, which was contracted by another company that they didn't have that information. I've made 2 previous calls to a gentleman that's the vice president of that company, Quality Counts, Andy Mix, M-I-X, and I have not returned, he has not returned to any of my previous calls. But they were taped on, which you saw, Mr. Town Manager, taped or affixed to Town of Troutman stop signs, which they can't just go do that because that's our property. And I let Mr. Mix know in the future that they can't do that kind of information.
We as a town also inquired, once you made us aware, citizen complaints about those. To this date, they've not contacted myself or Adam Lippard, Public Works Director, about that. It is normal that property counts are done. They have to be done while school is in session. That's why there's kind of a rush at the end of May, 1st of June, that these things appear. I certainly agree with you when it comes to stop signs. The post that's being put up there to attach other things to them is actually, Chief Watson may know off the top of his head, but there's actually, whether it be town-owned or state-owned, there's actually a statute that says they can't. So a company like that should know and have inquired with us, and we're going to follow it up with a letter, the certified letter, to where they have to acknowledge a signature.
Perfect. And this is my last question. On our newsletter, we sent out a notice that there would be no leaf and limb pickup for June. On today, because I got a couple of phone calls about this, and that's fine, but I really didn't have any answers for the citizens. There was something on our website today that there would be leaf and limb pickup today and tomorrow. So I was wondering why we put it out that there would be none, and then all of a sudden on our website it was, because people put them out, then people had to take them back in, and it caused for a little bit of a problem.
I understand. I did get communications with a person earlier that it was an error, that it went out in the newsletter that there would be no leaf and limb pickup. That's why it was corrected on our website. Again, with the magnitude of hours that every employee is here working, invariably we're human beings and mistakes will occasionally be made. I can't expect any employee to do things and not make mistakes. The only thing I can say is we apologize to anyone that has caused any grief or issues, but in this particular situation, nothing was done with intent or malice. It was simply an oversight, and once it was realized, it was certainly corrected and then publicized properly to try to let all of our citizens know that needed to know.
Well, thank you. That's it, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Well, being the last, I'll just say kudos to what has all been said. Thank you for bringing up those concerns. They're valid concerns, and I'm sure the town manager will be consistently on top of it. I'm like you, I see those reports resistant, and almost like push them out of the way and get the job done. But I realize there are legal decorums and regulations you have to follow, or you'll find yourself in the wrong and at legal peril. So unfortunately, we have to go through the legal legal beagle stuff, and that does take some time, especially with the resistant ones and people who are homespun lawyers. I know my rights. Well, you know, part of those rights are to be responsible as well, and they forget that part. So I say kudos for at least we're trying, which unfortunately in the past many years ago, that just didn't seem to be an effort, and now there is a diligent effort to get these things done. And as the old saying goes, Rome was not built in a day, and some of these things that have been going on for a long time are not going to be whisked away overnight, but they will be cleaned up and done, and people who are resistant will be made to be irresistant, if not through honey, shall we say, then with a stick by court order. So with that, I'll leave it at that, but again, I'm also disappointed, and that has been a concern of mine, and hearing that the latest from that is also that the county manager continues to be resistant to funding for things that are of not only interest economically to the town, but also to the county as well. Seems to be something that she doesn't seem to agree with, and I don't understand that. I don't understand it, but I hope the commissioners understand and realize, at least that was the impression I've gotten in past meetings, that they realize the value, and they will overrule that and at least put a reasonable amount of funding in there, maybe not all we asked for, but a reasonable amount, and amounts that we've talked about in the past that are meaningful to help us continue running infrastructure for the developments that are coming, and they'll come, one way or the other, they will come, and you know, be it commercial or be it residential. So with that, I will move on then to the, yes. I'm sorry, excuse me. T. Ross.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, thanks for trying to manage the meeting today. And in my absence, I appreciate you and Town Manager Wyatt for your patience and the council's patience for I've got an unexpected out-of-town meeting. A couple of things that I thought I'd reiterate anything that was already said. Again, I appreciate all the support that folks are doing toward the town. But prior to COVID, we had a community that really supported those of us in the community that experienced hardship. And I want to thank those who came out for this past weekend Miles from that 5K. And so, again, I think it goes to show that we continue to support those in our community who are experiencing health issues and hopefully go to the betterment of our community. I also want to say I wasn't able to make some of the Memorial Day events, and I appreciate those who did attend and recognize those who have made the ultimate sacrifices in our country and put their lives on the line to support our freedom. Lastly, I want to also congratulate Justin and our condolences to Adam and his family. Both a celebration and a time of remembrance for prior Mayor Pro Tem. So let's keep them all in our thoughts and prayers. This is probably a question for our manager. There's a question by a citizen around, do we or have we had any requests for water extension onto Clont Hill Road? And is there any thought by the town in extending water to Clont Hill, particularly if the Falls Cove development gets completed?
We have had several inquiries. There's not been anything formalized as to us doing so. There's two people in particular on Clontz Hill Road that have been very adamantly opposed to any expansions of our town limits that we do. And one in particular is a significant property owner in that area. But there appears to be, at least from the developer point, some interest in others. And I honestly do not know, and Lynn may offer some insight as to specific parcels. I'm kind of cautious to do that, but to your point, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have had some inquiries. There has been no formal talks or request of it, and that's one of those, if a developer would request, then we would work with our engineers as to a line or loop and how it would need to be made, but it is certainly possible.
Great, thank you. That's what I was looking for. The second part of that is, I don't know if that's the state or someone's doing some work at the intersection of Clontz and Perth. Do we know what that development is? I think some folks were thinking it was water extension there, but I hadn't heard that, so I just want to confirm that.
That is a intersection improvement, so caused by the TIA. Lynn, do you know which development it was that's having to pay for that?
I believe it's the last phase of Falls Cove.
I also agree with her. I think it's the last phase of Falls Cove that's coming in. I can't recall any other developers that I'm aware of that has had that put on their TIA, but because of that Falls Cove last phase that will have access from Clontz Hill, that was one of the DOT approved and recommended improvements. We too have had numerous calls. Did that include wastewater and freshwater services? But this project at that point is subcontractors doing it for the developer, but DOT will sign off once it's said and done if it's up to their engineering agreement.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
I appreciate you bringing it up, Mayor, because that just put a thought in my head. One more reason that hopefully we get financial help from the county in the upcoming budget. One more need possibly, certainly eventually, that's not going to be a few $100s to do if we do it. And, without help from the county, as a small town, relatively small town, there are a lot of things, needs and requests out there that we're not going to be able to even consider without bankrupting the town. And we do need help from the county, and we hope they do look favorably at us with our list of specific needs. It's not just throw a bunch of money in the air and see where it falls. It's things, as town manager pointed out, we've given him specific requests and more to come. And it's something done in a professional, business-like manner, and we would hope a response in the same way. So thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, if there's nothing else to be said, I'll move on to the next item of business. Under general business, we want to go to item number 2, or line number 2, Juneteenth holiday discussion. And I want to emphasize, we're just talking about discussion right now. It's too late to do anything this year, so but there's no reason we can't start the dialogue for next year. Options being to follow a state, which we normally do, or do now, and has been the protocol in the past, to follow the state holiday calendar. And if they add that to their holiday calendar, then most likely we would approve it to as a council locally. That's number one. Number 2 would be to do something internally where we would do some sort of celebration, proclamation, whatever would come out of a brainstorming committee perhaps, or individuals. And then number 3, do nothing, which obviously I don't think any of us want to exercise that option at all, or even think about it. So I'll just say that and if we could, just a brief discussion right now, and then later on we can get more in depth about it. But again, that's, you know, that's y'all's prerogative to carry it to whatever level you would like or go more deeply today. But again, I will call for a discussion of that item or that line, and we'll move on from there.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
In doing some fact finding as requested to do, and just for you all in the discussion phase of what you all may wish to do or ask us to explore and look at other options going forward, certainly we're more than willing to take directions that you all give. The town of Mooresville, for example, for numerous years provided funds to a nonprofit group that then paid for food so the celebration could be done for Juneteenth, and that's the way for numerous years that town celebrated Juneteenth. Statesville, on the other hand, through one of their finger departments, not the city itself, and I don't know if it's the downtown group or which group, but I all but 1 year think I have attended their Juneteenth celebration, which blocks off a street, a whole street down, and they do different programming during the day. It starts in the morning, mid-morning, and will go into the evening. And I think I've been all but one. But again, that's not the government body that does that, but Statesville did offer things such as a uniform officer and some things of that nature for the event. But again, somebody else comes and they do the spaces for that so that Juneteenth can be celebrated and everybody expects and understands what that tradition's gonna be. It's a pretty good celebration. If anybody's not attended, I would encourage them to do so. A lot of churches participate, as well as various groups, whether it be one of the schools that's no longer in Iredell County, but different groups come and help make that a successful event. I was also asked to look into holidays, what cities, towns, or counties around us are acknowledging and or taking the holiday. The town of Mooresville voted last year that they would, and they are starting to recognize Juneteenth as an official day off, paid holiday off for all of their employees starting this year. And the reasons I was told is because it was a federal holiday. I cannot speak to what schedule they normally follow, if they normally were on the state or the federal schedule, or if that even came into discussion. I honestly don't know to the board what went into that decision. Mecklenburg County, as Council Lady Harris can tell you, just has recently voted to do it. I don't think it goes into effect this year. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think it does. I want to say it does. It may not, but I don't know. I'll find out.
I think that goes into effect next year, but they just recently done it. Those are the closest to us that we could find and research. Emily Watson helped. I also reached out to the county manager and asked what, if any, discussion they may have, would be having, that we would be discussing it most likely at this meeting. The response I got back from them next year. It confirmed what I thought. Thank you. But they, the ruling there, or the decision there, is they follow the state holiday schedule, and because they follow the state holiday schedule, that's most likely where they would stay, at least for now. So to me, we've got a couple different options, as our town has never participated in either one. Being as it became a federal holiday last year, prior to that, it was just another day that was important to a lot of people, but nobody federally or state acknowledged it officially in either capacity. So to me, we certainly could follow what Mooresville has done and then fund a group, a nonprofit group that wanted to come and do some type of Juneteenth celebration, to where either our park was being utilized, or similar to Statesville, we closed down a certain area of town so that it could be celebrated and recognized. That's one of the great things about our park being here close to Town Hall. we certainly can reserve and use it back there. Not trying to push a group anywhere, just offering suggestions that if we wanted to recognize the holiday, if there were volunteer groups that come out and said, hey, let us handle it, then that's one way we could as a town partner up with them, is to offer facilities and then of course possibly offer funding for food up to a certain amount, hot dogs and hamburgers. I'm sorry for anybody that would like to have flounder or some other menu item, but hot dogs and hamburgers is what Mooresville always did down there. And to me, those are options. And of course, if y'all got any questions, I'll be happy to answer more of my research.
I just want to follow up. You're correct. And in fact, that's how I learned about June 19th. I enjoy history, and I remember, reading about what led up to June 19th, but I never thought about it, June 19th, and it being until Statesville started it on South Center Street, down at what we call the Big Dip. And it was educational for me, because I did research as a result of that years ago when it first started, and yeah, it's very successful, and Statesville, of course, closed off South Center and so forth, and something like that is certainly a good idea. They do it on Saturdays, I believe, or have in the past. So, most people are off, and it's not interfering with anything, but I mean, that's not to preclude a holiday as well. If the state, again, my feeling is if the state makes it a state holiday, then we follow suit. But in the meantime, until that happens, then we do something meaningful, as you say, whether it's a park or one of the streets or something, for the event, to recognize it more than just, a few words and a proclamation, which is nothing wrong with, but, and then you're on to something else, and people, in, out the other ear, and okay. So that's my 2 cents that I'm throwing out to start the discussion, along with the town manager, and anybody else who would like to carry on, or
I just wanted to say, to anyone who does not know what Juneteenth is, I highly suggest that, you look it up and read about what Juneteenth is, so that you understand the importance of it to certain people and why it's very important. So that's just my suggestion for anyone.
Mayor Pro Tem,
yes, sir.
if I may, just quickly, going back to the manager's comment, the city of Salisbury has partnered with a number of organizations for several years to celebrate Juneteenth, which is in essence the celebration that many African Americans have celebrated as the end of slavery in this country. There's a lot more history, and as Councilwoman Harris mentioned, I would encourage folks to do a little bit more research on that to learn more about it. But it is a celebration of the end of slavery in this country, and I believe similar to the way Manager Wyatt mentioned, I want to say the NAACP, the Parks and Rec of the city of Salisbury, Novant Health, and the NAACP there in Salisbury have sponsored Juneteenth celebrations, and they've gone out very well. It's a really good celebration, and something I would encourage us to continue to see if that's something that we can do in our community as well.
I agree with you, sir, and as I say, we've got some time, some breathing room to discuss it and do something concrete that will be substantial in one way or another by next year, but perhaps at least this year we can do something at Thursday night's regular meeting to let people know that we do know about it now, and a lot more people are learning about it each year, and the federal government has seen fit to make it a national holiday, so it's something that's out there even for the school kids to learn specifically, just like April 9th of 1865 is considered the unofficial end of the Civil War. So these things go together, and you know, the poor things that were going on before then were slowly corrected after that, and still being corrected today. So I agree to do something, and you know, I'll say, you know, the discussion to be continued on today as well as in the future over the next few months. You know, we can't wait too long if we're gonna do something, as you suggested, Salisbury and some of the other communities are doing. So we'll have time to plan for that, but I agree with you 100%, sir. And I will ask if anyone else has some comments.
The only thing is, again, right now is partnering with somebody that would hold the celebration, then we could commit funds to it and support. And like I said, park or wherever, some, you know, if it's some church, they may want to block off a bigger, different area, so whatever they would want to be part of it.
So would you want to reach out to certain groups, or would we want to maybe go the committee route to try and gauge, you know, who wants to participate, you know, kind of open it up to everybody?
Well, you know, first thing that popped into my head when you said that was, you know, we do that for any parade we do, well, for the Independence Day parade specifically, is that we form, you know, the committee, both staff and people on the outside that are interested, be they church, social groups, individuals, to reach out, because the more, I say the more, I don't want too many people, but, you know, the more people you have, the more contacts that are known out there that you may not know otherwise.
Right.
It's just a few, 2 or 3 or 4 people.
Pool resources.
Yeah, but you don't want to get too many to where, you know, it becomes a, you know what.
We'll still be talking about it next year.
Yeah. No, exactly, or 2 years from now. So, yeah, but I would, you know, what I would refer to as an ad hoc committee, you know, that's their specific goal, and once that's reached, then they can disband, or like the Independence Committee, just have set times they'll meet each year to begin planning for the 4th of July, or Independence Day parade. So, yeah.
I'd like to see us offer any community group or the people that want to be involved, our park, at least have that option if they don't want to hold it on their property, our park and our resources to help them make sure it's a successful event with our contribution also, the mayor and council and our staff.
So are you saying the town not have it?
No, to offer everything, all our resources in our park. But also, if they want to have it at their facility, what I'm saying is.
Help facilitate that.
Help facilitate that, exactly, Jerry.
Something like the situation with Statesville, where I would imagine it's Downtown Development Corporation, possibly.
I would assume
But something like that where they're working in a nonprofit group, and the town offers resources to help. Nonprofit group kind of spearheads it, but the town is partnering with them, you know, to assist in
our
kind of
resources,
ways,
of
or
course.
actual cash, or whatever, you know. Yeah. That's something like that, yes.
The only thing I will add is, but because of the law, the federal law that goes into compensation of employees, one of the things that I would like for you all to know and consider, and even the citizens, going back to this past January, when we, through the mayor's urging, when we first talked about trying to do an event to recognize Martin Luther King, one of the things in his honor was a day on instead of a day off, which I love the concept, and it's a national movement. It's not something we created. We just happen to be the first ones in Iredell County that made it so, which involved a lot of staff. When a lot of people's getting to take the weekend off and then have Monday as a holiday, we actually had staff working Saturday and Monday on the day that should be off as a federal and state holiday. But because of that, the employees that's working the extra hours actually gets penalized. Because if it's a normal 2-week work to where there's no holiday scheduled, then the employees get paid overtime or comp time, whichever we choose to give. And that's was my decision as manager to award whichever pay or compensation that I chose. But the problem then comes is because the holiday's there, it's not time and a half anymore. It's just straight time. So while we certainly want to assist as employees, in an event celebration on a holiday. That's why it comes out better if it's nonprofit groups that are doing it. And then we offer our facilities, if there's off-duty officers, then they are compensated because it's a different formula that we can use to compensate them. But for normal town employees, they would be further penalized, just to explain how that pay works. If it was just like Independence Day, it's all hands on deck, but that one, everybody is having to come and work, but they're gonna be penalized because of the way the pay period is. Now, if it ended differently, then it wouldn't penalize them at all. But because the way the pay period is, they will be working basically straight time on a day off that they should have normally had off for most employees. And then that's where we have to be creative going forward, that while we certainly love to show off our town and be first in certain celebrations, I just want you all to know that I may come back at some point and say, hey, I've got to have a little different compensation in these areas that still meets federal law. Because we can't just say, well, heck, just pay them time and a half anyway. That's not what the law says.
I agree. You know, I appreciate it, but I mean, you know, town is, you know, is asked to sacrifice, and they should be compensated for it. It's only right, and you know, voluntarily or not, the fact is they're stepping up, and it needs to be rewarded in some way, some substantial way, whatever can figure out that where we stay within wage and hour law from federal and state levels, of course. But you know, that's been a concern of mine the past several years, that you know, things are getting busier and busier, and more is being done, and you know, our staff is stepping up outside of the normal 40-hour work week and helping with that, and you know, not really sometimes not being paid at all. They just do it on their own, and where I'm sure they could be home, me time, family time, and so forth. And so please work on that. You know, you and Justin, and come up with something that you can offer us in the future as to consider, so that you know, our staff will feel like they're being treated fairly, being recognized and treated fairly. So.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else right now? Like I say, it's to be continued. We started it, and we can decide if we want to do the ad hoc committee, or if we want to do it amongst our, you know, in meetings amongst ourselves, or you know, what have you. You know, my suggestion is to do the ad hoc committee. They won't be subject to open meeting laws and so forth if we don't have more than 2 town elected representatives. So. You know, that being voting members of the council under normal circumstances. So consider that, and we can discuss this again at the July meeting, and we'll proceed from there, whatever comes out of that discussion. All right, we'll move on then. Staff items, staff comments, sir.
At this time, I would just remind you all that we started last month. While there are some department directors' attendance at this meeting, it is simply to clarify things that may be on the agenda is the reason they're here. And of course, our chief is to make sure that everybody's well behaved. That's right. But if you all have any specific things you would like to know from the department heads, please let me and them know together, so that when they're introduced Thursday evening, they will have a couple minutes to say whatever they need about their departments, but we would like to address any questions or concerns you all have. Other than that, I do want to echo, and it has been said here by you all, that we certainly are grieving with Adam and the loss of his grandfather. Early on, I don't know that it was public, but then somebody took it upon themselves, I think, to post it on one of the social media sites before the family got everybody told, which is one of the reasons we try to be respectful of all situations, and even the town, and certain things don't publicize things until there's certain facts that are in play. But the passing R.J. Wilson, our former Mayor Pro Tem, was definitely felt throughout the community today. I've had at least 5, if not 6 phone calls of people wanting to know if it was true or not about his passing. And we do sympathize with him. We are working through a couple things that came out in you all's comments. The sign being one of those that has been on our agenda and has not stopped since we ordered it back in October, November, whenever that was. We definitely have a couple more things coming up as well on the planning side. We have got the planning department employees at least relocated. We're still waiting on our construction company we have hired to make it public accessible and become an official office next door. Our one property in the rear, the now tenant, former homeowner we purchased from, is saying that it will be in 2 to 3 more weeks. And we have not delivered a letter to him yet on the donation part of that agreement. That will be handled in person tomorrow. But we're looking forward, and I've already talked to our construction guy that we awarded the last project to come and start looking at that house to see what we have to do to meet all the laws and the standards as far as it being a publicly accessible office, if that's what we choose to do going forward. Other than that, Justin goofed off for a week and a half while his wife had a baby, and he's back to work today, and we appreciate him back, but there was so many bills, and the bill thing, it broke and fell off the wall. That's not a joke, it did. So he's definitely, we started interviewing for some employees today, and then he's got a lot to uncover. But I do appreciate all the employees, and thank you all for the kind comments about the reports that they received, that you received, that they prepared. Our intent was to try to give you all as much relevant facts without the puffery that we could. And of course, as you all see with everybody's schedule, we certainly are working our 40 and then some for every salaried employee. And then our other employees are doing a wonderful job too. And as you all said, I can't say thank you to them enough. That's all I have, unless you all have any specific comments about anything that you prefer to email is fine, so we can address Thursday.
I just got a quick one. You said you need the, is the planning house will be public accessible?
It will be.
It will be? Okay.
Yes, sir. As soon as the only thing that is left, according to them, for us to be 100% in compliance with being open to the public is an ADA accessible ramp area. That's what's got to happen there. But the other work underneath and all of that's been done.
I was just,
Or sealed.
seemed like I remember the discussions being, you know, possibly not having it public accessible, you know, having meetings over here. And stuff.
We did discuss that, but if you look at the rules for it being office, for the expense that it would cost to build a ramp and making it accessible, and also speaking with Lynn, the department director, my primary concern, one, was safety of employees, especially if they would be a day to where it would just be a single employee there, that I didn't recommend that. Since that conversation, we see the need to not only have those 2 employees, but maybe one more in the near future that would be joining them, so there would never be just one employee there alone, unless it was like during lunchtime or something of that nature. But even then, we will have an ability to control the front door, and we paid for the upgrade if Adam was here, very expensive door, to where people can't just walk in like here, the front door's open and you can walk in as you should. That one, they would be able to lock and then have a phone system to let somebody know if they needed to be there, if an employee was there by themselves.
Good.
So security is my safety and
You're right.
security.
Absolutely.
Yeah. covered somewhere I was gonna ask too. Will they be able to conduct meetings with applicants over there? They won't have to come back over here and talk, and, you know, they'll have the space to sit down with a table for discussion, so.
Yes. We had a table identified. Is it still in the main room?
It's still there, and it actually is a very nice meeting space. And I think once we get everything situated in there, it'll be a nice secondary room for people to be able to use, not just planning staff, but that's an issue that we have a lot of issues with this meeting space.
There have been times when you've had conflict, you've had something here, and, you know, people are kind of scared where we're gonna go, and so, you know, you would have a kind of a,
We've had a lot of those lately.
yeah, plan B.
But that, as Lynn said, that certainly, we hope to utilize that for meetings of 6 or less people instead of tying up this whole room for the same
Yeah.
thing. That way this room can be utilized.
If that's good, you have a meeting space over there, so you're not gonna wear a rut.
I've
Going
got a lot
back
of
and
steps
forth.
in there in the last week.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a counter?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else? At this time, we've got 2 interns. If Chief, you would introduce yours.
This is Riley Gallagher. She comes to us from Lee McRae College in Banner Elk. She's majoring in criminal justice and under psychology. She's on a scholarship there for the biking team. She's been with us for 2 weeks now. She'll be with us at the end of this month.
Welcome.
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 She has liked her internship, and we are looking at trying to do some part-time hours for her as well. Once that is completed, if everything works out for her and us. But she has certainly been a smile around here, and we welcome her. Would you like to say anything to everybody?
I am enjoying it so far. I've learned a lot, so I'm really excited for the next couple weeks.
Thank you. The second one is Josh Heatherly, Josh Heatherly, UNC Charlotte. And Josh just started last week. On the way to the radio station, gave him a conversation about expectations and deliverance. And he was on the radio within 20 minutes of saying, "I'm here to start," which he thought, way cool, I'm gonna get to do radio stuff and have fun. But once we got back, because of how much things are happening in the front office, his goal is to get a degree in communications. But he was going to be assigned to Parks and Rec, but as soon as we got back from the radio, he has been a front office junkie ever since. As time permits and we have a replacement up there, he will certainly come out and we will put him in Parks and Rec where it was supposed to be. Anything you'd like to say to him, Josh?
Just thank you for the opportunity and looking forward to having a good summer.
Thank you. At this time, yes, sir.
Yes, just a couple of quick comments. I do appreciate the continued effort to look for new talent, specifically for our community. And I know Lee McRae produces some great students, and look forward to the work that they will do for our town and our community. I absolutely know the quality of student that is being produced through UNC Charlotte, and appreciate the university also providing quality talent for our community. So go Niners, and look forward to both interns and the work they'll do for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
May I ask one thing, sir? I was going to ask Riley. I know Josh, I think's a mechanic. Josh,
Yes.
are you from North Carolina or out of state, or?
I actually live in Huntersville.
I'm sorry, what?
Huntersville.
Huntersville? Oh, okay. All right. Local lady. Well, again, welcome, we're glad to have you.
Those two had to go and help at admin so that they can balance out the sheet at the end of the day. That's why they left. At this time, our next item on the agenda was the introduction of planning and zoning board applicants. Before Kim introduces those that are here, we did have one applicant send an email and state that he has had a severe flu, which is Curtis Fortner. He looked forward to serving in some capacity to bettering the town, but at this time, at doctor's orders, he was ordered to definitely not be around people because of his severe flu, and that if a decision needed to be rendered without him here, he understood, and he would look for a future opportunity in the future. And I told him I would deliver the message.
Okay, first one is Mark McHale.
Michelle.
Michelle, okay.
I'm gonna let her go first because she can.
If you guys don't
She's tight
mind,
on time.
I am very tight on time, and I've been. Okay, we have Tanya Bartlett.
So, I know most of them, do you want me to stand up?
Yeah, please.
So I am on Parks and Rec as of right now, and I do plan to stay on Parks and Rec. I've ran for town board, obviously. Don't plan on leaving anytime soon. My kids have pretty much said this is where they want to be, so I just want to be an asset to the town. And I mean, just sitting here today, I was listening and hearing civic group. We need a civic group to do this, and I'm thinking, oh, I know about this. I know about that. So anyway, I would love to be a part of it. But, you know, obviously I prefer that you choose the best candidate, and, you know, I live right here in the middle of town, so I want people on these planning and zoning committees and any other committee that are going to be, putting their best foot forward, so, I'm here to help, and I'm willing, so. I don't know what else you guys wanna hear, if you want me to give you anything, cause I've not been a part of planning and zoning before, so I obviously don't know the ins and outs, but I'm here to help if needed.
I guess one of the questions, why you chose planning and zoning?
Honestly, I was actually just sitting in Kim's office, and I noticed that I just didn't realize that there had not been people obviously coming in and putting in applications for those positions, and it seemed like there had been spots available for a while, and I love Parks and Rec and don't plan on leaving anytime soon. As long as they need us, I'll volunteer there as well, but I just thought that there was a need, and I've got a mortgage background, prior real estate background, and so I know what is, you know, what our zones are and our, for the most part, the terminology that's needed, so I don't know. I just thought maybe I would have never done it as a realtor. I will say that. I don't know how Mike ever did it, but.
You're not currently a realtor, are you?
No, I'm a mortgage lender. You should know this.
For the record.
Oh, okay.
I heard some horror stories from Mike, so I don't.
Just quick, you know, if you could, just, you know, how long you lived in the town, and, you know, some of the civic organizations, and of course you just said, you know, which, well, most of us knew, if not all, but, you know, just a quick light bio of current situations.
So I live right down the road. I live at the end of Church Street. I know I had some visitors there the other day, riding by, visiting. We've lived there about 8 years. We've lived in Troutman. Both of my kids were born in, they've been born and raised in Troutman. Don't plan on leaving anytime soon. I don't plan on leaving at all. I'm part of Parks and Rec, obviously. I am the soon-to-be treasurer for our Rotary, Troutman Rotary. I am a board member for the YMCA of Statesville, and gosh, there's so many other stuff. Do a lot. Do a lot of loans, which is really good. But my kids sponsor one of the roads down here, and we enjoy picking up when we can. But I'll be honest, the people on that road do a good job of keeping it clean already. So we took pictures the other day when she cleaned, and she did that for her project, her freshman project for CCTL this year. So it was kind of neat to see her doing the kind of things that I love to do, because I'm very civic minded and I love to get out and do things in the community. So that was a lot of fun to watch her do
Your
that.
husband has his own business here?
Yes, my husband has his own business here.
Actually come
so-
flying through and real low on a plane here not long ago.
Yeah, he did his retirement, which we still have not had a true party for. We actually just got a call from Charlotte that they are going to put the retirement party back on the books now. So hopefully we'll have a big retirement party for him somewhere in Charlotte in the near future, so that all of his old buddies can get together and they can all, you know, enjoy their retirement together. But I will say that that was kind of weird to see. I get my new ID and it's got retired beside it, and I'm like, I'm really not old enough to be retired, so.
Let me ask something, and thank your husband for his service. Thank you very much. Obviously, this is not something that's gonna take a whole lot of time,
Yeah.
but you're a busy lady. You've got a full plate, then some. Are you gonna be able to make the meetings and, you know, any maybe little extras that are involved, you know, on a because, you know, we have had in the past, as you may have heard, you know, being a part with the Parks and Rec and all, some folks, you know, they're gung ho at first, and after a while, they start missing the meeting, and then the 2 meetings and 3, and you're wondering if it's still part of, you know, even though they're still a part of it in their heads, they're still part of the committee. So I'm just asking, you know, you have the time and, you know, be here constantly when needed and ask and so forth.
I do have the time, and I will say that this is not something that is new for me. I have always been very spread out. Even when I was a young teenager, I volunteered at Holy Angels out of Belmont. I volunteered at the YMCA, at the Boys and Girls Club. I went out and read books. That was all during college. So, I mean, as a young person, I've always, and I have a calendar, and it is very, very important. And if it is not in that calendar, it is not getting done. So it would have to go in that calendar, but yes, I would definitely be here.
Yeah, just real quick too, your philosophy, and obviously planning and zoning, you're gonna be dealing with this almost 100%. You know, growth in the town, and a lot of controversy there, as we all know. Commercial versus residential, or growth period. You know, what, you know, briefly, and I'm not trying to pin you down to anything.
No, I know.
I'm just asking, you know, are you somebody that's going into the fire pit, shall we say, you know you're gonna get burned, you're gonna have people that are gonna say hello, others are gonna ignore you that used to say hello because of some of your decisions, a lot of controversy there. And so, you know, are you ready? And just a little thought on your perception of growth in this town.
So, while I ran for town council, I realized just how much I did not know. You know, I did not know what was going on behind the scenes, and coming, you know, and obviously talking to you and talking to everybody, you get to hear what's actually kind of going on, and you don't realize it. So you're thinking, oh, well, why did they vote this way? There's a whole lot more that I just didn't know. So going through that whole process really opened my eyes tremendously. Not only just, you know, my prior, having watched Mike be on planning and zoning, as a realtor, that was just that much more eye-opening. So, but yeah, I have a good understanding of what's going to happen, and I've seen it happen. I've been to those meetings, so I'm definitely willing to put the time in and to put my due diligence in and work for the town and do what's right for the town. And I'm not opposed to growth at all. I'm definitely welcoming growth. I would like for us to get a steakhouse. Let's see what else. I would like a whole lot of stuff. But, you know, I definitely want to see the right stuff too. So.
Good. Anybody else? Anything? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Guys, I'm going to leave.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Sure. I'm gonna sit here and join you so I don't look like I'm talking to your back. Join you as a group. My name's Mark Michelle. Personally, lived in the town of Troutman since 2000. My wife and I moved here for a job opportunity for her in Hickory. She still works out in Hickory. We have twin boys that are 13. And professionally, my degree is in landscape architecture with a focus in urban design. I say it that way because I legally cannot call myself a landscape architect. I have not sat for the North Carolina Licensing Board exam, so I say it in that fashion. I'm a licensed landscape contractor in the state of North Carolina. My career has been in landscape contracting for the past 25 years. 13 of those years, I owned my own business. I sold that business 2.5 years ago, and I currently work for the company that bought mine. From a voluntary standpoint, been on the design review board for the past couple years. We got rolling before COVID and recently have gotten back into good form. Currently I'm the chairman for the design review board, and I'm also on the land use advisory committee, which we just started. In the past, with my company, I've sponsored the spring 5K, and certainly enjoyed that when I had the opportunity to do it. From just a philosophy standpoint, it basically boils down to you're going to receive what we design for. And if we're patient and are steadfast in our convictions of what is good design and what we want our town to look like, the appropriate developers and people will come in and fill those holes. And that's my point of view. We receive what we design for. And what is it that we want the town to look like? And I have a genuine interest and concern for that and what the town's gonna look like. I grew up in a small town in upstate New York, and I saw the demise of that small town due to poor decisions that were made and poor planning that was made. I don't wanna see that here. We originally moved here with the intent of only being here for 5 years and moving back to New York State. The rest of our family is up there. Like I said, we've been here just about 22 years. We don't have any plans on moving. Certainly enjoy the town, would like to see it flourish, and that'll come through good design.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody would like to ask questions? Mark?
Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
You said that you're the design review chair right now?
Correct. Design review board chair.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And, yeah, okay, I see it now. I was looking for your stuff, I found it now. And you also said that you are not a landscape, what did you say? What's the word you said?
So my degree's in landscape architecture. Legally, I cannot call myself a landscape
Okay.
architect unless I become licensed in the state of North Carolina, and I have not done that.
Okay. So there's no conflict with either one of those, design review board or your current profession?
A conflict with my current profession?
Oh, your profession is not the landscape stuff, right? Okay.
No.
Okay.
My current profession is I'm an estimator and designer for the company that I work for.
That you work for, yeah. One more question.
Sure.
So you mentioned that you watched your small town that you were from, basically just go downhill. Were you involved anyway with that? Did you help or?
No, that's
I mean,
where
not help them go downhill,
No,
but
no.
did you try to step in and do anything or serve on you? Yeah, what did you do? That's why you left. I'm just kidding.
No, to give you more context, this is the town I grew up in. I left for college when I was 17.
Oh, so that was a long time ago.
So, well, not too long.
He's only 25, right?
So no, it was more of an observation from my point of view of seeing the town that I grew up in and lived in, and it just kind of progressively went downhill, and didn't understand really the reasons why at that point, you know, as a high schooler.
Right.
And making those observations, understand a little bit better now, but that was simply an observation, the point of view I had of the town I grew up in.
Right. I'm done.
Okay. Jerry?
So I just want to poke at something that you said.
Sure.
You said you get what you design for, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot, but that's a daunting task with a lot of burned bridges and tough decisions.
Mhm.
And so you're confident that as a member of planning and zoning that you'll be able to hold that line of thinking and
My weakness in what I bring to the board would be knowing the laws and ordinances. When I hear Lynn talk to some of those points, and when Ron talks to some of those points, it's like, I don't know that. That's not my strong suit. So I would need guidance and help in that effort to know by law, what can we do by, we're reviewing the zoning map currently, but what is in place that would have to change? I'm not versed in that. As far as the whole idea and the theme of you get what you design for, yes, that's a broad, that's a high level comment, right?
Right.
To get down in the weeds of it,
That's what I'm scared of.
it can be a daunting process, but if you're patient with it, you end up gaining the fruits of that patience. If we're quick about it and make 80% correct decisions, 20% is going to fall through. Or make a quick decision in a short time frame that's maybe short-sighted versus the long-term plan for the town. That's where you have to be steadfast in your commitment and your thoughts of what's the long-range plan versus the short-term return. And from the standpoint of, what? We're talking about it now, right? What's the downtown supposed to look like? What are these homes that we have that were single-family homes through our main street? What's the purpose in the future for them? Is it more commercial? You could talk to somebody and say, I'd love to live downtown. I don't mind the road. I want to walk to the restaurants. I want to live in a vibrant downtown. So taking into consideration what the town wants on multiple levels, as far as the citizens, what are we looking at? Look at our towns around us. Go through downtown Davidson. And we're not Davidson. Is it good or bad? You're shaking your head no.
It's beautiful, and you get plenty of time to sit and look out your car window and look at all the beautiful
If
buildings.
you try to go through downtown Davidson, yes. In certain times, they have a college. Of course, we don't have the college here, so there's some draws there. But to go back to your question, it doesn't deviate from good design. And everybody on this table is going to have a different definition of what good designs are, but it goes back to some steadfast known from, I'm not a traffic engineer. I learned how to create spaces that people want to be in. Part of what I had to do was a study abroad. I studied urban plaza spaces in Amsterdam, Holland. Why'd I go to Amsterdam? If you think about their land, they have to reclaim their land. They have to form their land. They have to create their land in their downtown center. They're going to use it wisely if you have to build it. So I studied 2 plaza spaces across the street from one another. It was a controlled environment. One plaza space wasn't on the other side of the city versus the other. What made one work, why didn't the other one work? Literally right across the street from one another. One was thriving with restaurants. If you're out on the sidewalk and you go into the building, you could never draw a clear line of I'm inside or out. It all had to do with that streetscape. The one across the street, there was a clear line. This is the building, this is the sidewalk, there's a door and a wall, I'm inside or I'm out. That's just a simple example from a design standpoint that allows people and invites people into a space that can be applied to what we're doing here as a town, inviting people into our space. Where we might put commercial and industrial, there's a need obviously for that, and where do we put that? Where do we put retail? Where do we put housing? What does that housing look like? What's our center of town look like? I know we have some challenges with legacy owners of real estate in our downtown, and some things can change, some things can't.
George? I just asked, so listen your content, are you pro-growth or are you anti-growth?
I'm pro-growth in the proper form.
Because we're all,
It's open for
we're seeing
debate.
growth coming our way, so.
When I moved here, it was nothing like I had seen in New York State. There was a mad rush of clearing land, putting homes up, everything we're seeing now. And I saw Mooresville change, and at some point we knew that gap would be filled between Mooresville and Statesville, right? We're the gap in between. So it was evident that was gonna come up Perth Road, it's gonna come up 77, right? So we're not gonna be able to turn growth away in the area we're in. It's just we gotta design appropriately for it. I'm for growth when it is planned out in a fashion that we can have a long-range plan and control over. As much as we can have control over that, right?
Just a question.
Sure.
Sometimes we're handcuffed by other agencies like DOT for our growth. I mean, when someone comes in with a good project, and let's be all honest, we know these roads in the next couple of years are not gonna be made any bigger. But here's something, an opportunity at our doorstep. What's your opinion? Do we take it or do we not take it? Because,
Depends on the opportunity. I mean, you have to
or with
evaluate.
industrial,
Say again?
with industrial growth. Because we have a big one possibly gonna be happening in the next
Are you
5 to 10
referring to
years down at the.
Arium property? From what I understood on the initial broad stroke, that was a mixed-use development. You know, something similar to Burkdale Village, if I understood it correctly, but it sounds like it's still up in the air. I don't take,
My question is kind of with the DOT, with roads, where if the DOT can't come in and help the town, what's your opinion on the infrastructure then?
Sure. From what I've seen, and this can apply in several circumstances, you never get that golden path of everything happening in the sequence that we all wish it would happen in, right?
Right.
One or the other's gonna come first. So it goes, I can't speak to what the DOT, I know at one point in time we reviewed a plan that came through the center of town, and I was part of reviewing that plan. As far as the road widening, whether or not we keep the green space through the center of town, what that looks like, what the sidewalks, what happened to the sidewalks, what's that traffic flow look like? We were trying to put a plan in place so that the DOT didn't just come in and do what they wanted to do. We had somewhat of a say in what our town looked like, and DOT didn't just come in here and engineer it to their needs and didn't take the aesthetics into consideration, right? One or the other's gonna come first. And typically it's the development comes and then
The road comes.
the roads catch up.
Right. Hopefully.
I don't know what's within our power to change that.
That's the dilemma, as you see,
Sure.
NRC. It's our dilemma. You know, we're trying to do the smart growth as best we can, but we are straddled by what we can do with the road network, because the road network is not necessarily owned by us. Yes, we have our little small, community town streets, but, your Highway 21, your Wagner streets and so forth, Perth and out here at Old Murdoch, those are state, and you're seeing growth out on Murdoch Road, and there's probably gonna be some more growth out there in the not too distant future. And, we know that was a farm-to-market type road, 100 years ago, which was fine for the way it was designed and the width of it now and so forth, but, it's not that now, so, the dilemma is, we don't wanna hold back good growth, what I call smart, good growth, an asset to the town, because DOT doesn't know how to operate its department efficiently.
Well, so I'm not here to question any decisions that have been made in the past. That's not for me to question, right? So, but how do you have control over some of that? And if 0 lot line home building is approved, that's gonna increase our traffic flow. And that's what D.R. Horton right now is building off of Autumnleaf, one of the phases of Falls Cove that was originally Crescent Land. That was supposed to be additional Falls Cove phases. Those original, from what I knew, those original plots were larger, right? If you look at what they're doing now, they're grading out building pads that are 0 lot line building pads. You can't change what's already been put in place and put into the works, right? But designing and putting in place, if we're allowed to, minimum acreage size on what a house is built on. A mix of it. And we touched upon some of this the other night. So if we're gonna have 0 lot lines for homes to be built on, 10,000 square feet or less, where is that? How much is that? And do we mix in larger acre to acre and a half? When I moved here, I lived in what I believe, well, then you can correct me, you know as well, Ryan Homes built on Georgie Street, I think the first kind of tract home condo, I would refer to it as, the neighborhood, which was great for my wife and I, no kids, had Perth Road behind me, hardly any traffic, constant traffic now, right? I live down off of State Park Road now. So when you come up to State Park and Perth at that point, years ago you wouldn't have to wait, right? To make that left-hand turn to come into town, you sit there for quite a while now. That's coming from the growth that we have in our town and what's currently being built as a product. How can we change what product is allowed to be built? And to what extent? That's gonna impact your traffic flow. I don't know the answers to that. I'm willing to help on that. From an aesthetic standpoint, they have to clear every tree to build those building pads and grade out those building pads. If you go through the original phase 1 of Falls Cove, which Crescent developed, off of Perth, you don't have that product. I live in the other phase of Falls Cove and our lots are bigger, we're an acre and a half, but we don't have city sewer, so we need to have septic. And that dictated the lot size. Barium neighborhood. That was, how many years ago was that built?
15.
Yes,
And that was,
17.
that was a great addition to Troutman. And the homes in there were nice, thought out well. But that's not what we're getting now, right? How can we change that?
Okay, well, if you've asked all the questions then, we appreciate you taking the time to come by and talk to us, and, you know, we'll discuss it again Thursday night and see what we want to do, and we'll move from there. And, you know, if you can join us Thursday night, fine, and if not, you know, you can find out later, but basically, you know, we got you and Tanya, and was that the lady that left, was that?
She had an appointment in Charlotte at 6, so she had to leave.
Okay.
I wish I knew I would have let her go too.
We may wait you know, to hear from her, we may, you know, just in the interest of fairness, wait
Absolutely.
another month to make a decision
Sure.
for that reason, but, that's up to folks you see sitting here.
Sure.
But, you know, we need to do something, you know, we've got some spots that have been empty, you know, or will be empty, and, we need to fill those, so, appreciate your time, Mark. Now, obviously, I know you're from DRB, so, you know, stranger to me, and, I thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. She better be taking the HOV.
You ready for me to proceed?
Yes, sir, go ahead,
Mayor
go ahead,
Pro Tem?
yes, go ahead.
The next thing we have is, you all heard that our other applicant did not appear, and in the interest of fairness, it's certainly you all's choice, as one was sick, the other one was here, and just couldn't stay that long. We can postpone if you all desire, invite the other two next month, or we can see if by chance they can attend Thursday night if you want to conclude then, or y'all can make a decision. It's entirely up to you all how you would like to proceed with all of these. I do think we did ask them to be here at 4 o'clock, and while our conversation and agenda was very important, I don't know that I did a good job in explaining to them they may be here a little bit before they got hurt. So I apologize for that. But we never can speculate on an agenda that was somewhat concise if that's going to take 15 minutes or an hour. But all of our discussion was very important. We did nothing wrong. I just didn't tell the one applicant that it was going to be over an hour before she could be heard.
Well, you want us to go ahead and make a decision or termination on that?
It's entirely up
Just
to
a
you.
question to clarify some stuff. I think is there 4 candidates, sir?
There is 4.
And out of the 4, how many are we going to appoint?
2, one will need to be inside and one is outside, and they are alternates. Is that not correct, Kim?
I think they're both
Yeah, both
inside.
They're both inside.
He was, cause he lives
Does he,
off code of parking.
One's an inside
He
voting
lives within
position,
our
one's an
town
alternate
limits.
position.
okay. and
One
so
is
Tanya.
inside voting. I
So is
apologize.
Curtis Fortner?
Fortner is, yes, he owns a house down there off of
Era.
Wagner of Era Street, in that area.
Quarter.
And also that Shababy or whatever, she's Wagner Street.
Georgie, it said.
Georgie, okay, Georgie, so all of them are town residents.
And we're
Curtis
only taking
certainly
3.
owns a house in the town.
Two, one, well, both of them inside, but one will be a full voting member, the other will be an alternate.
Yes, thanks for that clarification.
Thank
Kim
you.
just
Yes.
pointed out one is a voting board member and the other one is an alternate. And y'all would
Okay.
need to classify which is which.
I'm okay with, having them come back at the next,
Next month?
I don't know what everybody else's decision is, that's just mine. As opposed to interviewing on Thursday.
Well, we don't have our back against the wall as far as filling goes. I
Right.
mean, we want to, but,
Right.
you know, if we want to wait a month, this war's not gonna come to an end if that's the other's desire or.
I would agree with that.
We're on a committee right now, so.
Yep.
Waiting a month's not gonna.
Right, right. All right, well, if,
And it's not like a no showed, you know, at least, you know, one we know is ill, one she had an appointment, you know, so I mean, I think there.
so, sir, if you would, just ask the other two if they can attend next, agenda briefing, next month.
Be happy to. Item number 4 is overview of the town's upcoming agenda for Thursday, June 9th. There were a couple corrections. I think the clerk handed out one before we get there. Mayor Pro Tem was studious, and I think we located 3 different ones. So when we get to those, please, sir, if you will, remind me. I don't want to skip over one. Of course, number 1 item is standard as every meeting. Number 2 goes to the consent agenda. The first part of the consent is the minutes that are in your packet. Number 3 is a request to contiguous applicant for,
Excuse me,
Bless you.
thank you,
bless you.
thank you.
Lynn, if you will discuss that, please.
We had 2 requests to call a public hearing for an annexation. One of them is a piece of property that's at 126 Hillcrest. And for some reason, that's a subdivision that's off of, Weinkauf. And that's, for some reason, it's the only lot in that subdivision that is not in the town, and they would like to be in the town limits. So that's what that Gilcrest application is. And then the second one is a small piece of property that was added to the Troutman Towns project that will have to be annexed if that property's gonna be developed as part of that project. It's a very tiny parcel, it's under an acre. It's an ETJ property, so, we can do the rezoning without this annexation. So it's just a call for public hearing for the annexation of that parcel.
Lynn, excuse me, you were talking about Fieldcrest, or Fieldstead?
Gilchrist.
Fieldcrest, now where is that?
Gil.
126
Gilchrist, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I was about Fieldcrest, where's that? Where's
He didn't go
Fieldcrest?
more.
On the street.
Morris will be upset if we went that far.
All right, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So those are the items she had. If you all have got any questions, of course, feel free to ask. And then number 5, Justin had to step out. You did discuss number 4, correct?
I did, yes, sir.
And the report's attached to your documentation. Number 5 is approval of the year-end budget amendments. That will be standard housekeeping as far as line items that need to be manipulated to reflect accurate expenditures that we've had. Number 3 will be a standing, I'm sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
before we go on, Matt, just ask this, you mentioned something on line item 4, you said that that land will be developed?
Yes, it's part of Troutman Towns. It's part of the Troutman Towns development off of southeast way. It's being considered under old business.
Okay, all right.
It's just a small parcel. The majority of that's already in the town limits, but this 1.19 acre piece, I believe it was added to the development at a later date, and they need to annex that.
Okay.
But it's in our ETJ, so it can be rezoned without this being annexed.
Okay,
We already
thank
have zoning jurisdiction over it.
Thank you. My apologies.
So the rest of all that property is already been annexed.
Right. Well, it's in the town.
When-
In the
a
town
while
limits.
back.
Correct.
When we did that,
I think there was another zoning case on it.
when
that
we
was
did
brought into the town.
town residential back in 2019,
Yes, sir.
now they think they got a better deal.
I'm sorry?
Now they think they've got a better deal, because people are,
They do think.
they're changing.
Yes. 3 was a standing report from the library. Kelly will be presenting. We'll have a public comment period. 4. 5 is old business, rezoning request, Touche Homes. Lynn?
Yes, sir, this is the request for the Troutman Towns, which is the townhome development that is being requested off of Southeast Way Drive. This is the one that went before the planning board and was denied. It came before council, they asked for a deferral, and the mayor and council requested that that go back before the planning board with any changes. So they went back to the drawing board, they made some significant changes to their project. They dropped the density to right under 4 units per acre, which is in compliance with our comprehensive land use plan. So staff recommended approval based on the changes that were made. We took that back to planning board in May, and the planning board recommended approval as well. So we'll be bringing that request to you all on Thursday night.
Any
Is the
questions?
developer D.R. Horton on this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions of Lynn on that one?
If I may, while this is related to rezoning in general, as you will recall, there's a statute that says if you approve any ordinance, that if you don't have 2/3 of a vote, which would be 4 to 1, that you have to have a second reading. There's been a change in that statute, just so y'all are aware. That still applies except in rezoning issues that have public hearings. So you can approve a rezoning on a, for instance, 3-2 vote, and there does not have to be a second reading. It would pass on that first reading.
If you had the public hearing.
Well, any rezoning is going to have a public hearing, but yes, with the rezoning, public hearing, you don't have to have a second reading. Right.
And, Paul, this is the one that you said that was supposed to be east side of Southeast Way, right, not west?
That's correct.
I'll make that correction on the
On-
final.
Yes, on number 6, if everybody will see the second line, it says located on the west side of Southeast Way. If you're traveling, well, it don't matter which way you're traveling, the Southeast Way, this is actually located on the east. So if you will, strike out the word west and replace it with east.
Oh, East, okay, I see it. On the old business.
So that room, Gary, that just changed recently? Because we had a 3-2 a little while back.
Well, the only time you've had a second reading was on the animal ordinance.
Okay.
The 3-2 was a negative, and negatives you
Yeah,
don't
that
have to.
didn't count.
Yeah, that didn't count.
That didn't get in.
For new business, annexation request, number 7, which is Houston Road Development Property. Lynn, if you will, explain 7 and 8.
Yes, sir. 7 and 8 are connected. 7 is the annexation of the property that is looking to be rezoned for a warehouse distribution center on Houston Road. This is a project that's located just on the opposite side of 77 on Houston. They are looking to build a distribution center there. There's 3 buildings involved. It's right around 700,000 square feet. It did go to the planning board. The planning board did recommend denial. So we are bringing that to you all for recommendation, because it does have to be annexed. It is not in our town limits, so, or our ETJ. So we'll have to annex it and then hear the rezoning on that one.
Anybody have any questions of that?
So we will follow that, forgive me, I'm slipping through the pages there.
Okay.
We will follow annexation then, rezoning?
Annexation will be first and then the rezoning, correct? We'll have to annex it before we can rezone it.
If that had been in our ETJ, we could have done, you know,
Gotcha.
like that.
I just, yeah, witnessed some of that in the past, haven't partaken in it yet, so that was, to my knowledge.
Any other clarifying questions? Number 9 is the annexation request, non-contiguous Piedmont Land Code land.
Again, 9 and 10.
Please
they're
go ahead and
related as well.
consolidate. Yeah.
This is property that's located near the charter school. It's off of Highway 21 at Cross Sky Lane. There's several acres involved. We're bringing this property into the town at the request of the applicant. And what they're wanting to do is just it's a traditional rezoning. It's not conditional. So there's no concept plan that's involved with this. They're just asking that the property be rezoned to Town of Troutman HB, which is a commercial district. So, from what I understand, they are looking to develop it for commercial use. That's why they're asking for the HB, but there's no plan that we're presenting to you. When you do a traditional rezoning, you just need to take into consideration that anything located in that HB zoning district could go on that, or locate on that property.
And to add to what Lynn said, the developers have indicated that they would like to do some type of a shopping center area that would have a commercial grocery store, not commercial, retail space as a grocery store to anchor in that development. They do have contracts in place, but they're not at liberty per one of the owners to tell everybody who their people are that they hope to put in that development.
That's 10, right?
Yes.
Going back to 9, just to clarify, you'll see Lexus Drive, Charlotte Highway Lexus Drive, change that to cross tie lane.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
not Lexus, but cross tie near the school. On line 9.
And number 9 is gonna be that warehouse.
No.
No.
9,
Annexation to 10.
9's annexation. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Mhm.
any more questions on 9 and 10? Number 11 is for you all to consider the proposed budget for 2022, 2023. We have done all the proper advertisements and made notice. Did anybody come in today that you're aware of?
No, sir, but I did receive some comments or email that they won't read at the public hearing. I'll get that to you.
That's the first I've seen of that. We will forward those to you so that you will see them and make them aware at public comment period as we should. Nobody has come in and viewed the budget that we have up here as of about 1:30. Nobody had come in to view it. and nobody has requested through the clerk, any email copies. But in addition to what's required by statute, we of course have talked about it on the radio, as a couple of you all have heard. And we've done more publicizing of what it is and what it's about. Any questions on the budget? Number 12, consider approval of closing a portion of Litton Street for First United Methodist Church special event. They actually have 3 dates there, I believe, that's left. Per our town ordinances, before streets can be closed off, you all have to approve them. This is just a portion of Litton Street right there in front of the church. The businesses that are located a couple hundred yards down should not be affected, meaning people can still access them from Litton Street if they need to. It'll just be from the Tally Road side that they would need to access. You all have any questions about that?
And they've done that several years.
They have done it annually for numerous years, yes, sir.
But now the street has not been closed off. The street has not been closed off in the past.
Yeah, they haven't closed it off. Go across to the playground, back to the church.
They have closed it off?
Yes.
They have closed it off, but unfortunately, previously, they didn't come and get the proper, hey, canvas.
Yeah, that's what I,
And
yeah,
they
okay.
made the town aware,
Yeah,
and the police department has always said sure, but again, by our ordinances, it requires you all's approval.
I mean, I'm aware of it, but I didn't know. I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't hear any formal requests.
Right.
This is the first time, and, obviously I knew they probably had done something, but I didn't know they just completely closed off the street there for, what, 3.5 hours? Was it 5 to 8:30, I believe?
Yes, sir.
Certain dates during the summer.
Right. They put up cones and basically the
They got
participants
approval,
go back and forth. Right.
They got approval from the town, they just didn't bring it to council.
Right. The previous persons who gave permission in the past didn't follow the rest of our ordinance to understand it's something that you all need to approve.
Okay, thank you.
And I can vouch for that, because in the past, our communities put in a request and they at no point told us that we needed council's approval. So,
Okay, thank you for telling us that. One more thing to add to the list of, what we did wrong in the past, we're doing right now.
We're trying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're getting them all done, but as we learn of them, we certainly are trying.
Like I say, you can't build Rome in a day, but at least we're slowly, brick by brick.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Consider appointment to the planning and zoning with you all's permission. Being as you all have stated with, ask the others back, we will remove that with you all's motion, being as the agenda was passed. It would require, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does require them to vote on it to remove it now, correct?
We
No,
did,
they didn't approve this
we
agenda.
did the agenda briefing one, right?
Yeah, y'all approved the agenda briefing agenda.
You can go ahead and vote to remove it from the agenda tonight, can't you?
They're saying it's not required. If y'all tell us, just give us the directive, we can take it off, and then you
Don't
vote
say
on the
I'm
agenda.
not sure, but I was,
No, you can, the agenda for,
We need to take an official vote to do that?
no, the agenda has to be formed, and then y'all just approve it on Thursday.
gotcha, okay.
We will produce it without number 13 on there unless you all object. I think it's gonna be a long meeting Thursday, just so y'all are aware.
You burn this neck,
You certainly can.
candy right here.
I'm gonna have to restock.
How is the lady, that, on Georgie Street, how do you pronounce her last name?
Shababy?
Shababy.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I knew.
Shababy.
Not the baby, she baby, okay.
She the baby.
She Lord, okay. All right, sir, anything else?
No, sir, that's all I have.
All right. Well, let's see here. I guess that is it. Then we are, with that then, unless someone else has something to say, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Excuse me? No? I'm sorry.
But, yeah, first of all, I am envious that the mayor pro tem was able to get out by 6 o'clock. So.
That was the
I
directive,
don't know
Mr.
if I
Mayor.
need to come up with more agenda items, or what's going on here?
I bow my head to your presence, sir.
So I've got 7 minutes to ask my question. Did I miss why we had this handed out? I did see that we have one. It just seems to be the
Yeah,
E-Verify, or the DocuSign.
Mayor Pro Tem, found an error on it. It is contiguous, and they
Instead
had,
of non-contiguous.
had non-contiguous on the original, so they whited out non and resent it to us. So that's the application.
They
I
had
won't
to-
mention the alderman.
They had to submit their proper paperwork.
Where do you see Alderman there?
To the Board of Aldermen of the town of Troutman, North Carolina.
No.
No. That needs to be changed. Yeah. I thought Jonathan was supposed to change those.
That's another one of those that we have been correcting ever since I got here, is correcting forms that exist. So that's a town form that existed that,
Yep.
that has to be corrected.
I think it has been, actually, because there is another one.
I wonder
In
if
the
the
packet
old one's still
that-
on there
I think
somewhere.
sometimes people, they're just old copies floating around
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
Sometimes people who submit multiple applications to the town have an old
There's
one on their
the-
drive, and I think that's.
I thought we had corrected it, and thank you for pointing out that there have been some correct ones with town council.
Okay.
First page under new business,
Yeah,
that's
I
a
thought he had
corrected
corrected
version.
those ones.
It's even got the new logo
I
on
don't think he did, but it was done while he was here.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, once in a while, I still find myself saying Board of Aldermen
Do you?
instead of council. Those things have been around forever and still trying to change my habits. All right, with that then, is anything else?
it. No, sir.
Okay, with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second? First a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Just in time.